Sages said in the Talmud that if your son visits somewhere, it's like if you yourself visit. So I know that my son taught a few lectures here, but I must say that I did not expect to find such a young audience. Baruch Hashem. God bless you. Hashem yevarech etchem. I'm sure there are many who are not married, who will be married soon. Be'ezrat Hashem. If you wish it, by next year you will. And those who are already married, we wish them to discover the beauty of marriage. And if they already discovered it, we wish them to know the depth of marriage. Anyway, I wish all of you long life and prosperity and real happiness. And our sages said there is no real happiness but around the Torah. You must learn Torah. When you learn Torah, you warm up your spiritual being, and you will taste happiness in everything that this world has to offer as an introduction to the world to come. With your permission, as I find that it is a real zechut to address you, I consider it a zechut, an honor. Because I tell you the truth, I am used to speak everywhere. It's just that such a young audience, that's a bracha, a real blessing. Wonderful. It is a sign that the Mashiach is coming. You know, our sages said that based on the pasuk ve'eshiv lev avot al banim ve'lev banim al avotam. When the Mashiach comes, it will be the young people, the children, who will bring back their parents. Normally, throughout the generations, it's the parents that have to do their best to bring closer their children. But apparently, when the Mashiach will be about to come, a real metamorphosis, a change, an extraordinary change will take place in the world. It will be the young people who will be bringing back their parents. So, Baruch Hashem, we see that. Let us begin. With your permission, even though the subject is Mystery of Marriage, Part 2, nevertheless, with your permission, I would like to begin with a little thought over the parasha yesterday, the Torah portion that we read yesterday. You remember that we read, Vayhi beshalach Paro et ha'am, when Paro finally capitulated and he sent forcefully the people of Israel. He said to them, Kumu tseu mitoch ami, get out from my country. As though we needed his permission. There is another speculation about this. Why do we need his permission? Well, we needed his permission. God said to Moses, without it you cannot get out with the great fortune of Egypt. When he is the one who pushes you out, then you are liable to the full payment. But that's a different story. I would like to tell you, to summarize the parasha of yesterday so that we can ask the next question. In the parasha yesterday we see that, thank God, the Jewish people are out, and now they are going on their way in the wilderness. The first miracle was, after the great miracles of the 10 plagues, the next miracle is that there is a pillar of fire, Amud Ha'esh Laila. In the night, they had plenty of light. Baruch Hashem, they did not need any electricity. They had plenty of light that guided them. And it was a pillar of fire as a great and tremendous guide for all the people of Israel. In the day, they had another pillar of smoke, a white one, which guided them, protected them, intercepted any kind of arrows and harmful projectiles against the Jewish people, and also made sure that the way is straight and ironized, taking care of all the enemies and all the bad elements that could harm them. That's a great miracle that passes almost unobserved. Great miracle. The next miracle, the greatest of all, is Kriyat Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea. Our sages said there was never a greater miracle than that. Now, what would you do in their place? When you see such a miracle, the miracle of Yam Suf, you would immediately lean on your knees and say, God, Hashem wa Elokim. But that's not what we see. Immediately after the splitting of the sea, the Jewish people had to go through 3 days without water, and they started to complain. So immediately we judge the people of Egypt and we say, what kind of behavior is this? After such great miracles, you come and complain just because of 3 days without water? Well, try to live 3 days without water. And you will find out that all the miracles that you have seen before disappear, dissipate from your eyes. People are very close to themselves. They need water to survive. So there is no water immediately. They forget about the great miracles. But Hashem provides them with water. As they approach the little village of Mara, they found water. But again, the water is bitter. They complain. And again, Hashem provides them with another miracle. There is a tree. And that tree will sweeten the water, and automatically you can drink. That's what happened. The place became a place of such great emunah, such great faith, that God gave them a few of the laws of the Torah in the village of Mara, such as the mitzvah of Shabbat. Do you know that Shabbat, the commandment of Shabbat, was not given exclusively at the mountain of Sinai? It was given prior to that in the village of Mara. And why is that? Because that's the place again when the emunah, the faith in God, was re-established. But then again, they go further in the wilderness, again they start complaining. And again. So people would ask, what's going on here? Had we seen in our age even a fraction of their miracles, we assume that we will be much better than them. But that's not the case. At any rate, and I am concluding with this introduction, the conclusion of yesterday's parasha was Vayavo Amalek, and Amalek came, arrived. And who's Amalek? The first and foremost enemy of the Jewish people. According to the sages of Kabbalah, anti-Semitism started there. With Amalek. He was the first anti-Semite. There is another opinion in Kabbalah that it started much before that. But Amalek was the first army, one of the most powerful armies of the world, that defied and challenged the Jewish people when the Jewish people were very tired. They were not trained. They were not soldiers. They had no weaponry of any kind. And then Hashem says to Yehoshua, try to select a few people who can defend the nation against Amalek. And of course, I'm sure everybody knows that there was a great war while Moshe was watching on the top of the mountain. When he raised his hands heavenward, then the Jewish people were practically invincible. When Moshe, out of old age, had to bring down his arms, so the Jewish people had a few casualties. Vehaya kaasher yaniach yado vegavar Amalek vekaasher yarim yado Moshe vegavar Israel. When Moshe raises his hands, the Jewish people were overcoming the enemy. When Moshe brought down his hands, the enemy was winning. And what does it mean? That at least for a few minutes, we had a few casualties. Which means this was the first time after the liberation of the Jews from Egypt that we have something that we can call natural, not supernatural. It was a real war where people get hurt, and the Jews started to get hurt. So even though Yehoshua destroyed completely Amalek and his army, but nevertheless it did cost us a few casualties. Which means we understand that there was some kind of punishment in that campaign of Amalek, despite the fact that Amalek's campaign was also a miracle. The question is, why is it that Amalek comes at the end of that portion which is talking about the great redemption of the Jewish people? Suddenly from nowhere, the last portion of the parasha, we read about the battle of the Jewish people against Amalek, when Amalek attacked them. Why? The sages of Musar say, Musar means of morals and good deeds. They say, when God saw that the Jewish people did not learn yet how to appreciate. Can't you appreciate? See what I have done for you. I mean, I even changed the course of nature for you several times. Can't you appreciate? Okay, you are suffering, no water, wilderness, fears, anxieties. I understand. But a little bit of appreciation. Where is your gratitude? Therefore, they need Amalek. No more supernatural miracles. From now on, from Amalek on, there will be miracles, but concealed in nature. Which means you will have to pay a few casualties here and there. And that's the reason why the parasha of Amalek comes at the conclusion of yesterday's parasha, telling us that this was the price for not displaying their gratitude towards Hashem. You know, as an act of thanking act for all the great miracles that Hashem wrought for us. That's the introduction. What is this having to do with the mystery of marriage? Okay, we'll find out. First, I would like to mention, before I continue, that we dedicate this lecture to the memory of Baruch Hai ben Berucha, Zichrono Livracha. Also, we would like to dedicate this lecture as a refuah shlema, for good healing, to Simcha Achai ben Rachel. May Hashem bestow upon him the gift of health, and Shemuel Eliyahu ben Chana. Hashem yishlach lahem refuah shlema, Ramach yivarem l'shesagideim, en arefan alaim, en arefan alaim, en arefan alaim. Zchut haTorah tagen ba'adam. Well, people should know one thing, that the first commandment of the Torah is not Anochi Hashem Elochecha, that we are going to read in this coming Saturday.